Good morning to welcome to MS. There's hope. This morning we'll be talking with Dr. Z. Uh, we call it this segment a few moments with Dr. Z or a few words with Dr. Z. Um, we thank him for joining us. Dr. Z, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we're going to address some things that can help us and some things we go through. And we're just going to talk in general about some issues that arise. MS is a real change in life, and it's. I was thinking about this today. It's a gradual change generally. Some things like you have a car wreck, you're paralyzed. I personally would rather have that because with MS, it robs you slowly and you can see it, but there's nothing you can do about it. When it starts to progress, like you may start shaking. I did. My hands started shaking, and I could see it, and I wanted to stop it, but there was nothing at that time I could do. So I'm going to read a little disclaimer here, and we're going to jump right in with Dr. Z with some questions, and he's going to. Uh, I can't think of the name. Uh, he's going to help us to see some ways we can overcome some of our problems. This interview addresses chronic disease and some stresses or mental health dilemmas that can be encountered while combating it. We are not giving advice nor addressing specific cases, but are speaking in general about some issues that may be incurred, which we have seen and experienced. Difficulties and methods of treating them can vary significantly per individual. For this reason, we strongly recommend that anyone seeking treatment consult with a licensed medical or mental health professional. Again, good morning, Dr. Z, and we'll jump right in here, okay?
Okay.
I've got some notes I'm going to read, and the first one is
And now, where did you get these questions? Where did they come from?
these are from we have a Facebook page,
Oh, cool.
and it's called Multiple Sclerosis, the Coimbra Protocol. And I listed on there the other day some common questions that we might want to address, or, I just asked for ideas, and that's all these are is ideas. Um, the first is, how can we overcome a lack of self discipline?
Okay. The question, whenever we look at like bitterness or self-discipline or anything that deals with ourself and the way we play out, you want to be able to begin to ask some motivational questions. What motivates you? Because what I've found is, I've had people in the past tell me, I don't have emotions, and then all of a sudden they're displaying emotions. I don't have motivations. Well, sure you do. Everybody does. There's things that get us excited. There's things that will kind of get our engine going. For some people, it's a lot less. For others, it takes a lot more. So you really need to kind of look at that motivational level. Like, when there's a sense of procrastination or self-discipline or whatever, sometimes it's just you're tired, you're exhausted, you're physically spent, and you just don't want to do it. Instead of guilting yourself going, oh my gosh, I should do this, I should do this, I should. No, just go, wait a minute, maybe today's not a good day. Maybe I'm a little extra tired, a little extra fatigued, a little overwhelmed, with my MS. And so I just need to be able to take the day off. If anybody deserves to take days off, it's people that deal with chronic illness, and not feel bad about it. Yes, there's things that need to get done. Well, then try to prioritize it for tomorrow and, work on it. My thing is, I always like to put together, I like to check off things, right? So I like to put a little checklist together. So if you're finding motivation is difficult to be able to do, something that needs to be done, then just write down. In what you want to do is kind of get a little incremental, or I call it granular. just kind of break it down. So I need to go to the store, which means I need to get up. I'd like to go to the store at 11 o'clock. Okay, that means I need to get up at 8 o'clock. I need to have my breakfast. I just start writing down what needs to happen in order for you to get to the grocery store by 11. Do you have a grocery list? Create a little grocery list. And the reason means you're checking off. And then when you come home and you finally put everything away, or have some help putting everything away, you go back to your list, then you see all the things you actually did. I mean, there's a ton of things that have to happen in order for that to take place. One time I had this client that she felt like nothing she ever did was good enough. And so I kind of paused and I was like, okay, so tell me. Then I asked her this question: how did you get to my office? And she literally kind of parceled out about 22 steps to get to my office. And by the way, it was a 9 o'clock appointment. So it was pretty early, and I know for some people that's mid-morning, but it was pretty early. And I mean, I'm like, nothing you do is ever good enough. I mean, not only were you were here on time, you showered and you had coffee and breakfast and all the things, and you found your way here. I said, you're more than good enough. It's just sometimes we have this self-talk and this toxic shame that kind of eats us up alive, right? It's like, gosh, I need to get this done. Well, who said that? Who's telling you that? Oftentimes it goes back to our family of origin, right? A parent said that, brother or sister said that. Like, for example, one of the things I remember, growing up is I was, at eighth grade, because when I was younger, right, my parents wanted me to get a job. And I was like, well, I want to get a job, but I wasn't old enough to be able to get a job, officially get a job. Like, I went in town. We didn't live in a big town. So I went in town and asked a couple different places, how old are you? And I told them, and they're like, you're not old enough. And so, and so then I come home and tell my parents, and then they start saying, well, you're lazy. Well, okay, I'm not lazy. I can't get a job. I mean, I literally went out and asked like 3 or 4 different places, the grocery store, the gas station, and they can't hire me. And I told them that, but then I got labeled as being lazy. Well, what happened is, watch what happens is toxic shame gets in and goes, you're lazy. So what I do is I become a workaholic in order to address this perceived laziness that I was told. Especially, I remember when it was my 8th grade year, and it was like, I spent 30 years working 70 hours a week, and it's like, and then it's kind of like, why am I working so much? Then I traced it back, and it was that toxic shame that somehow you're lazy. Don't ever be lazy. In fact, one of the ways you'll know that you have some toxic shame or toxic beliefs is what you'll do is, what are people that you really don't like? For example, I don't like lazy people. They drive me nuts. Well, guess what? That was an area for me that was a real, soft, tender spot that I was kind of grilled and grinded in. And so now, when I see lazy people, oh man, it drives me nuts. But it's like, wait a minute. My view of work and all that may be different. And what I do is process that a little differently. But for years, lazy people would drive me bananas, because I was like, get a job, and it's like, but that's not the answer. It's just simply not the answer. It's an easy fix, but there may be reasons why, all that. And so toxic shame has an insidious nature to it, that it just kind of haunts us from our past, that motivates present thinking, actions, and all that oftentimes are not healthy.
There's someone that I work with, and I was very hard on him because some basic things that I was raised
Right.
that you do, say please and thank you and be responsible and take uh, take oh, I can't think, man, I can't think today.
It's okay.
Be responsible for your actions,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't do that. And then I thought, you know what? Maybe he was raised that way,
Mm.
and that really helped me to have sympathy for him, really, and to not be so hard. I'm hard on people. I'll be the first to admit that when people blow it, I tend to be hard on them. And I think going back to what you were saying about being lazy, I can relate because my father was a hard worker and he wouldn't put up with laziness at all. He used to go by this farmer's house and go and shake his head and say, that man hasn't worked a day in his life since welfare came out in 1954. And I was raised that way. I was a young boy then, and so that's what I heard. And so
Yeah.
all of my brothers and me are hard workers,
Yeah.
and we don't like laziness or put up with it. But I've learned to be understanding of lazy people, but I still don't put up with it. All right,
Well, let me just say one other thing. Dr. Brene Brown, who's written tons of books, she's done a great job. That she says this. She did some research, and she said the things that we're most judgmental of others about, we're most insecure in ourselves about. That makes so much sense. When you find yourself judgmental of other people for whatever reason, right? There's a really high probability it's coming from an insecure place in you. And she makes this illustration about a physical appearance that she had interacted with somebody. She walked by somebody that was smoking outside. She goes, didn't bother me. She goes by, I walked by somebody that was morbidly obese. And she goes, didn't bother me. But I walked into the mall and I saw someone with a large backside. And she goes, oh my gosh, that thing's massive. She goes, the reason why I did that is because I'm so self-conscious of my own backside. And it's like, and so, and then I've kind of played that out, right? Because I learned that some years ago. And I'm like, that's true. There's some real truth into that. And so we want to be mindful. What we're most judgmental of others about, we're most insecure in ourselves about. Something to consider.
no, all right. Our next question is someone asked about having procrastination, and if you have any tips on how not to be.
Well, to me, procrastination sometimes can come from a sense of entitlement or a sense of, victimhood. I'm a victim here because I have this chronic disease, and so I'm not going to do anything. You want to assess your motivation. Why is procrastination an issue? Why is that a problem? Like, for example, in my younger years, because of my personality, I was like, yeah, I'll get to it last minute, and I would procrastinate because it's like, I'll get to it, when I show up, that's a good thing, and I'd show up late. I for years, I don't do that anymore, but I had to check my motivation. And there was some wonky thinking in my heart that kind of motivated something. So what you want to do is, first of all, kind of do a heart inspection. Why is procrastination even an issue? Do you feel like you're a victim? Do you feel like it's not fair? Life sucks, all that kind of stuff. And be able to kind of address that. When you do, then what I like to do is I like to make lists. Some people like to do lists, other people don't like to do lists. But the reason why I like to do lists is I love to check off my list, right?
There's a feeling of satisfaction whenever you
Right.
put a line through it.
But that also helps kind of address the procrastination. Well, I can do that later. Some people said this, I read this article, do the hard things when you're best at your game. So like, for example, if you go to work and you've got to make some difficult calls, do those first because you had a good night's sleep, you had a good breakfast, you had your coffee, whatever, do that first. Then do the easier things throughout the rest of your day. Instead of waiting to do the hard things later in the day, you oftentimes won't do it. So do it first when you have your best that you can give to it. Do the difficult things first. I thought that was some good advice.
I agree. All right. This next question, I would like to take a few moments and say, when I got MS, I called John and Dr. Z here, and I was bitter. I was very bitter at people because they wouldn't come and visit me. They wouldn't write me notes. They wouldn't call me. Nothing. And all these years I had given, I felt, and now it was my turn, I felt, and nobody was nothing. And I was bitter. I was angry. And Dr. Z said to me, don't be bitter. God can't use a bitter person. And I found, now he'll give us some tips here, But I found when I got my focus off of myself and started helping people, my bitterness left.
Mm.
But our next question, Dr. Z, is tips on overcoming bitterness.
Well, I think what you did is you really set it up really well, John. So thanks for doing that, because again, I work with clients and we're always looking at motivations, the heart. And so bitterness is a response to something else in the heart. For you, here's what you said. You said, I had given and had given, I had given, and I felt like it was my turn and nobody was giving back. That caused a secondary response of bitterness. So find out what's driving the bitterness first. Is it a sense of entitlement? People owe you, you deserve respect, you do whatever it is, and again, don't necessarily beat yourself up for the motivation, because it is what it is. What you want to do is be able to learn what it is so you can begin to address it at the fundamental level, right? Because what you did is you said, all right, I'm going to move out from expecting people to respond to me. I'm just going to start caring for other people. And your bitterness left. Why? Because your motivation changed. Bitterness is a secondary response. Motivation will determine bitterness, right? So you want to do a heart inspection. And then what you want to do is be mindful that, bitterness happens. Yes, people do let you down. Yes, people will say dumb, stupid things. Yes, all the things that can cause you bitterness will be there. But bitterness eats me alive. It doesn't eat the person that I think who should be responding to me alive. It eats me alive. I'm the one that suffers for my bitterness. Nobody else does. I can be cranky. People will just stay away from us. They'll move, they'll like, don't call John, he's cranky, and they'll tell all their friends. So they're trying to protect themselves. But then you're sitting in your bitterness, and literally bitterness can well up into anger and hatred and malice and just all this. It literally can just cascade into numerous to where you're just not even nice to be around yourself, and that's when you're really bad. So one of the things you could do is forgive yourself or forgive your expectations. There's a way to be able to do that, that I help my clients with and all that, but there's some really good resources. Anything with Dr. Everett Worthington, Everett Worthington, Worthinton, Dr. Everett Worthington. He is probably the leading researcher scholar on forgiveness. And he's got this cool book of like 6 steps for self-forgiveness. It's just great stuff. And so, because we don't forgive ourselves, some people go, well, I've already been forgiven by God. Yeah, but forgiveness is essentially about releasing negative emotions and embracing positive emotions. And if that's true, I can release my negative baggage, my negative emotions toward myself, beating myself up. I'm not good. Or why did I get this disease? I don't deserve it. That all this kind of stuff. And then begin to embrace, no, what are the positive emotions I want to begin to embrace as I move forward? And if you understand forgiveness in that light, you can begin forgiveness, you can begin to serve, you can begin to look at other things that you enjoy doing that will help not allow you to sit and stew in your bitterness. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that it's easier to forgive somebody else than to forgive
Yeah,
myself.
you are absolutely
I
right.
can forgive you for doing bad to me, but I'm upset that I stole when I was 9.
Yeah,
And I haven't ever gotten over how I treated the person that turned me in. And,
yeah.
I have trouble forgiving myself.
Right.
And,
Are you admitting something here
oh, yeah.
oh yeah.
All right. There's something you touched on there, and I've touched on this before. People that have known me for a long time, I actually had a list of dumb things people say to us.
Yeah.
And me and Dr. Z talked about this before we came on here today. That a good friend of mine's son had celiac disease, and she went to her church, and a nice, sweet old lady said, "Well, at least it's not cancer." And every time I hear that, I feel like, "Oh, thank God it's not cancer." Yeah, that makes me feel a lot better.
Right.
you know. But people do. People say some stupid things, and you just gotta smile and go on. Don't let it affect you. It's not on you.
But it's not that easy, John, because then the onus is on you to have to smile and wave and go, oh, no big deal. The fact of the matter is, you're the one still stuck with the hateful, ornery, silly, dumb response. So
Right.
my thing is, what my recommendation would be is, you want to respond in a healthy way. Like, for example, when you and I were talking, you called out one of your buddies. You said, if you're trying to encourage me, you're not. And here's the key. This is very crucial. You've got to stay calm. You can't get angry. My goodness, you're such an idiot for saying such. Oh no, don't do that. I know you
Yeah, that
want
don't
to.
work.
I know you want to, and quite frankly, but they'll never talk to you again. So what you want to be able to do is go, you may not realize that, but the disease that I have is very debilitating. And sure, it may not be, but man, it is difficult every day. Do you understand what that means? That what you want to do is hold them a little accountable for what they're saying.
Yes.
Because if they're saying it to you, they're going to say it to somebody else, and then nobody wants to be around that kind of person. So or you could say, did you mean to try to encourage me? Because that's really not encouraging at all to say that. In fact, it's
You're
discouraging.
leaving them better than you found them by
Right. There
uh,
you go.
educating them.
Yeah, just a little bit, and just, do you know that with my MS, a lot of times my thinking gets foggy and it's really hard. Sometimes I may not even know who you are. Do you know how difficult that is? And sometimes how embarrassed I get? I'm so sorry. No, I understand, but I think, when you compare, well, at least it's not cancer. Well, there's a lot of people whose cancer is in remission. Okay, mine isn't necessarily in remission. I'm still progressing here. So let's be a little easy. Maybe it's worse than cancer. And so the fact is in a calm way, what you want to do is you want to engage the person, because what they're trying to do, and again, most people they're trying to be nice. They're trying to engage you. They don't know what to say. And man, when somebody doesn't know what to say, get ready for stupid, because that's when it comes out. They don't know what to
The
say, so they're going to say something stupid.
the only thing that I knew about MS before I got it was that I didn't want it. That's
Right.
that's that's the only thing I knew about it, and I knew it started with an M, and I knew if it started with an M, it was bad. MS, MD, whatever. I just knew it was bad. That's the
Right.
only thing I knew about it, and people don't know.
Right.
People
And
don't
so,
know the difference between MS and MD. MS will not kill you. You will die from a complication from the disease. But unfortunately, I say this and I mean it, it doesn't kill you. You can lay in a nursing home for 15 years and just, die slowly. All right, here's another question. Um, or actually, it's kind of a bit of wisdom from me, see if you agree with it. But I said, grieve your past. Now, this is something that I had to do, uh, and I finally did it. It took a while, but to realize that that guy was gone, and then unless I had something miraculous happen in my life, he was gone, and then leave it there. Don't go back and revisit it and say what if. One of the biggest problems with this disease is people will ask me, well, if you had gotten um, uh, somebody had found the disease sooner, you might not be paralyzed and be paraplegic. Well, that's true, but what good does it do to go back and say, oh, what if? So, can you address that a little bit? Where I say grieve the past and leave it in the past.
yeah, I think that's fair. I would probably use the word forgive yourself and the expectations that you have, and kind of start fresh. So it could be a grieving, it could be a forgiving, whatever. But what you're going to do is, in the common sense responses, you can't go back to the past. And when you get sick, like for example, when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, I did the same things. It's very different, right? But I did the same things, like well, if I had eaten healthier, if I'd have done this. Well, quite frankly, both my parents had type 2 diabetes. I was going to get it. I mean, it's just a matter of time. And so, but what I can't change the past. It's literally unchangeable, but I can affect the present, which can then impact the future. So what I want to do is it's not even so much grieve the past, although you can grieve it, you can forgive it if you need to, depends on how you, but what you want to do is allow the past to be the past. Get in the present and begin to
Yes.
experience all that you have to offer now, the wisdom you get to share, the relationships you want to nurture and develop, all the fun things that are in front of you now, the things that are available to you now, and subsequently think of 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Don't be thinking 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. We don't know. Nobody's guaranteed anything, and so let's be as present as we can with, if you're married, with your spouse, with your children, if you have children, grandchildren, I have grandchildren, just trying to be present. What does that look like? Well, when you have a 5 and 4 year old grandchild, it's all about the present. Right now, Grampy, my emotions are right now. So you're just trying to engage them with where they're at, and so it's trying to be present now, because the one thing we don't know the future. We can't change the past, but what we can do is we can really enjoy the present, and we want to be able to engage it. So however you want to really grieve it, forgive it, release it, however you want to do that, that's fine. But the expectations from your past need to be put to sleep. Why? So that you can live in the present in a new, fresh way.
Thank you. Address one of our last questions by saying that is how we maintain a good attitude and see the good in things.
Right. Now, people will say it's just a matter of choice. And to some degree, that's true. But it's really difficult when you have a chronic disease and you're in pain, your mind's not working, your body's not working, and you're frustrated. And so what you want to do is you want to give yourself a lot of grace. You want to give yourself some margin, some space. So if you used to get ready in the morning in 10 minutes, give yourself 30 minutes to get ready. Give yourself some space, allow yourself some, so you can, don't be so hard on yourself. You're already addressing a very difficult disease. The last thing you need to do is be hard on yourself for the input. It's not what you've chosen. It's kind of happened to you. And so now it's not what happens, it's what we do with what happens. So now what we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves some grace. We're going to give ourselves some room to breathe. We're going to begin to be a little kinder to ourselves, and that will reflect in the way it out. But that's one of the ways, and just stay present.
Well, Dr. Z, thank you. I think we're done with pretty much all the questions today. I thank you for coming on and enlightening us when you do. And I hope that we can set something up where we can do this every 3 to 4 weeks. And I hope people will submit questions for us. Give us topics to talk about, because we're going to run out of stuff because we got it all figured out. Anyway,
you are a comedian.
Yeah, I used to say 30,000 comedians out of a job, and I'm over here making it harder on them. Anyway, thank you again, Dr. Z, and look forward to talking to you maybe in 3 or 4 weeks.
Sounds good, my friend. Have a great day.